The Interstellar Ecology Council had sent their finest. 3 Torven specialists, each with decades of experience in xenobiology, stood outside the containment habitat, their cranial ridges furrowed in frustration. Inside, a small Zurac cub, no larger than a Norsean wolf, sat hunched in the corner, its obsidian scales dulled from malnutrition, refusing every offering of food. 17 cycles. Senior Specialist Derek clicked through his translator. The cub will not survive another 3. Zuracs were apex predators from Zurathia, a death world where even the plants had evolved carnivorous tendencies. Adult Zuracs stood 3 meters tall, possessed molecularly charged claws, and could bite through starship hull plating. They were feared across 12 sectors. But this cub, orphaned when poachers killed its pack, was dying because it simply would not eat. "We've tried every form of nutrition delivery," another specialist added, mandibles trembling with distress. "Synthesized prey scent, live feeding demonstrations, even neural stimulation. Nothing works." That's when Eliezer arrived. The human stepped off the transport shuttle wearing standard Ecology Corps fatigues. Her dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, a data pad tucked under one arm. She looked unremarkable by human standards. Average height, lean build, perhaps 30 cycles old. To the Torven specialists, she seemed impossibly fragile. "You're the human consultant." Derek's translator barely concealed his skepticism. Eliezer, xenopsychologist. She extended her hand in the peculiar human greeting gesture. When Derek didn't take it, she lowered it without offense. "I reviewed the case files during transit. I'd like to observe the cub." "The cub is a Zurac," Derek emphasized. "An apex predator. Your species has only been spacefaring for 2 centuries. What could you possibly want to observe?" Alia repeated, her voice gentle but firm. "Very well, but maintain a safe distance. Even a juvenile Zurac can be lethal." Alia stood before the transparent aluminum barrier, studying the small creature in the corner. The cub, designated Taro, a Zurac word meaning stone, lifted its head slightly. 6 eyes arranged in pairs along its angular skull focused on her with predatory precision. She'd seen that look before, not in alien predators, but in the eyes of traumatized children at the shelters where she'd volunteered during university. The look of something that had decided the world was too painful to engage with. "Has anyone tried eating with him?" Alia asked. Eating with him. Derek's confusion was evident even through translation. "Zuracs are pack hunters, right? Social predators." Alia scrolled through her data pad. "He's alone, traumatized in a sterile environment. He doesn't understand that this is food because no one is showing him how to be a Zurac anymore." "We demonstrated feeding protocols. Did you eat with him?" Alia looked directly at Derek. "Did you pretend it was delicious? Did you make it social?" The specialists exchanged glances, their translators silent. "I'm going in," Alia announced. "Absolutely not." Derek moved to block her path. "Humans are notoriously fragile. One strike from those claws." "Will you let a child starve to death because you're afraid?" Alia's voice carried an edge now. "Because that's what he is, a terrified child who watched his family die." Derek's cranial ridges flattened, a gesture of concession. "If you are harmed, the council will not be held responsible." "Noted." The containment door hissed open. Taro's head snapped toward the sound, his body tensing into a defensive crouch. Alia entered slowly, carrying a bowl of nutrient-rich biomass formulated to Zurac dietary specifications. To her human eyes, it looked absolutely revolting, a gelatinous purple mass that reeked of ammonia and copper. She sat cross-legged about 3 meters from the cub. Taro watched her, all 6 eyes unblinking, claws extended. Alia picked up a piece of the biomass with her bare hands. The specialists outside recoiled. She brought it toward her mouth, made an exaggerated show of smelling it, then pretended to take a bite. She'd palmed it, actually, but she chewed air enthusiastically, making satisfied sounds. She hummed loud enough for Taro to hear. So good. Taro's ear flaps twitched. Alia took another fake bite, rubbing her stomach in the universal gesture of satisfaction. Delicious, you're missing out, buddy. The cub's head tilted slightly, the first movement beyond defensive posturing since Alia had entered. She pushed the bowl a bit closer and took another theatrical bite. This time she closed her eyes, smiled, and laughed softly with pleasure. She was performing, and she knew it looked ridiculous to the specialists watching, but she wasn't performing for them. Taro's nostrils flared, processing her scent. Humans, Alia knew from her xenobiology briefing, smelled like prey to most predator species. But prey didn't usually sit down and eat comfortably. Prey ran. Prey feared. She took another bite, real this time, because she needed him to see her actually swallow. The taste was horrific, but she maintained her smile, kept her body language relaxed and happy. Minutes passed. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly, Taro began to move. He crawled forward a few centimeters, stopped, watched her. His scales rippled with colors indicating confusion in Zurac body language. Alia kept eating, making satisfied sounds, showing that this was normal. Taro moved closer, his claws partially retracted. "That's it," Alia whispered encouragingly. "It's okay, we're just having dinner." The cub reached the bowl. His long forked tongue emerged, tasting the air around the food. Then he looked directly at Alia, and she saw something in those 6 eyes that transcended species, a question. Is it safe? Is it okay? She took another bite and nodded, smiling warmly. Taro lowered his head and tentatively took a small bite of the biomass. Outside, Derek's translator emitted a sound of pure astonishment. The cub chewed, swallowed, then took another bite and another. Within minutes, he was eating steadily, occasionally glancing at Alia as if to confirm she was still there, still eating with him. She stayed until the bowl was empty. 2 months later, Taro had gained 15 kilograms. His scales gleamed with proper obsidian sheen. He was playful, curious, and bonding well with his Zurac surrogate pack. Plans were underway to reintroduce him to the wild within the year. Alia stood before the council, receiving a commendation for her work. Derek himself presented it. "I must confess," the Torvin specialist said, "I didn't understand what a human could offer that our best xenobiologists could not. Now I do. You didn't treat him as a specimen to be analyzed. You treated him as a person to be understood." Alia smiled. "We humans evolved as social creatures on a world that tried very hard to kill us. We survived because we learned something important. Sometimes the most sophisticated solution is just showing someone they're not alone. That eating together means you're family. That even when everything is terrifying and strange, someone cares enough to sit down and share a meal with you." The council chamber was silent for a moment. Then, in a rare display, every species present offered their gesture of respect. Humanity, they were beginning to understand, didn't survive their death world through strength or speed or natural weapons. They survived through something far more powerful, the stubborn, relentless insistence on connection, even with a predator who could kill them with one strike, especially then.